We cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore.
I've been a feminist my whole life.
Timmy's my best friend.
Guys, something terrible has happened. An Australian female reporter for the ABC, a radio presenter. She hasn't been murdered. She wasn't... Although, what happened was I can't even say. This woman, this reporter, was asked out for coffee. And get this, the man who asked her out was overly confident. I know, it's very shocking. It's very shocking. But before I go any further, I just need to give a trigger warning. If you've ever been asked out for coffee or tea or for any kind of beverage or date, you might want to stop watching now. It does get a little intense and goes into those kind of themes. So, trigger warning. Thank you. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is Virginia Trioli from ABC Radio Mornings in Melbourne. Let's just hear what Virginia has to say about this situation. The bloke said he was a fan, and that's always very nice to hear. I was dropping my son off. When he stopped to say how much he enjoyed the show, he introduced himself, had a few things to say about programming on my station, told me where he worked and what he did. It was a perfectly pleasant exchange. Don't worry, it gets worse. He told me he was going to send me his contact details on social media and said, get this, then we can meet and have a coffee. Then we can meet and have a coffee. He just assumed, he just said we're going to meet and have a coffee. He didn't ask. Oh my God, the audacity. I know there was a beat of silence immediately after he said this. It was the total assuredness of the assumption. It wasn't a request or a polite inquiry. We were going to do this. The Rolodex of polite ways to extricate oneself from a tricky situation whirled in my head, card after card, rapidly scanned and rejected. There were so many criteria to meet, and quickly. Don't be rude. Don't hurt his feelings. Don't promise something you can't deliver. Don't lie and say you will. It wasn't perfect, but this is what I came up with. Sure, well, if I have time. His face set. What do you mean if you have time? You have time? 2 beats of silence, me staring. You take an afternoon nap, don't you? This guy, what a piece of shit. What a psychopath this guy is. How dare he? I took charge. I thanked him for listening and said of course he could send his work details to me and maybe I would be in touch. And get this, how's what the guy says? Or not, he bit back. Or not. Are you serious, dude? What a psychopath. When I told my editor I had a little incident to reflect on this week, I was at pains to say it was no big #MeToo story, but she got it. So it's just about the huge then, hey? No, it wasn't the end of the world. No, I'm not attempting to cancel someone or to opine about fatal wounds from a microaggression. I know this story I'm telling you here is a small thing, but it happens a lot more often than you think, and to a lot of women. Powerful stuff. Thank you for pushing back against the patriarchy, oppression. I mean, getting asked out for a coffee. I'm so sorry that happened. Actually, this is ridiculous. Why is this news? Not only is this on the ABC Instagram, check this out. It's also on Virginia Trioli's Twitter page. We can meet and have a coffee. His demand floored me. This is what happened next. My column here. Dude, you wrote a column about getting asked out for coffee. Wow. And then the whole thing is on the ABC website. #MeToo gets mentioned again. Sexual harassment in a circle is like one of the other articles. And then get this. At the end, she throws off to Grace Tame. At this point, I'm going to hand over to Grace Tame, our outgoing Australian of the Year. And this weekend, you can read her most powerful speech yet on the legacy of abuse she has worked so tirelessly to expose. Did you just mention Grace Tame in the same article about you getting asked out for coffee when Grace Tame is a woman who was raped and groomed by a pedophile teacher at the age of 15. One of the most horrific cases of that in the world. And you got asked out for a coffee, and in your article, you throw over to Grace Tame, somehow linking your situation with Grace Tame. What does that say about our country? It's actually quite a good, positive review of our country. If this is what's making news, then we're in a pretty good place. If that's the worst thing you've got to complain about, then you should be pretty happy about this country. And it is one of the safest countries in the world for women, so whatever. If you pay tax in Australia, you're paying this woman's salary. You're paying for this woman to write this article. Is that really where you want your tax dollars going? This is a problem in our society. It's actually getting ridiculous. I'm all for exposing actual sexual abuse. I'm all for feminism and equality. This is taking it too far. This is ridiculous. This is insanity. This should not be a news story. It happens to me all the time. I go to Coles here in Manly, walk down to Coles almost every day. There's a woman that works there who I get chatting with. I'm just friendly with, and we have a little bit of banter here and there. And then she asked me out on a date one day, and I wasn't interested. We weren't sort of connecting on that way, but I guess in her mind she was, and she was quite sort of forceful with us, just assumed that because I was nice to her and stuff that we were definitely going to be a thing or something. But I was just oh yeah, maybe one day, something like that. Just kind of shut it down politely. She got the message and didn't have to be rude about it. That happens all the time to everyone. It's not a feminist or sexual abuse or a hashtag Me Too issue. It's nothing to do with hashtag Me Too. So I'm glad you said in your article it's nothing to do with hashtag Me Too, but it shouldn't have even been in the article in the first place because it's ludicrous. People asking other people out on dates is actually what makes the world go round. Men approaching women and then them forming relationships and then having children is what generates our population. Sorry, men should be allowed to approach women and ask them out on dates, and women and vice versa. Why is that a problem? Yeah, there's going to be situations where the person's not interested and they say, no, sorry, I'm not interested, or whatever. That doesn't mean you should write an article about that. That's ridiculous.